Hey folks, RJ Steiner here. I'm going to cover the user story. Data collector finds case event is automatically marked as complete. In the 3.12 release, we're making some improvements on how an event is marked complete. We sort of an auto detection feature. In prior versions, it was a bit oversimplified, and so this is a refinement. And we break it down as such. Make this bigger. The logic is a case event, so an event, is not complete if at least one of the related event form definitions meet any condition. So, event form definition, this is not yet referring to any event forms, but according to the definition. So for each of them, we have a condition. So you can look through an event definition and say if any of the event form definitions meet these three conditions, then the case event is not complete. So I've created a event definition with two event form definitions to demonstrate this in the case module content set. So I'm going to go to that content set. And run the Tangerine preview command. Also, let's open up that content set in VS Code. And open up a browser window. And I'm going to go through a registration real quick. All right, I'm going to back out of the registration event and create an event. This event definition that I created for this demo tests the event completion logic event. So here we've created that event, and note the status is incomplete. We're starting off that way. So I'm going to go through that configuration, and let's look at the event form definitions and see how one of these conditions is met, and that's why it's incomplete at the moment. So I'm going to go to case type 1 JSON. Make this bigger. And all the way at the end right now, we have that test event completion logic event definition. And here's our event form definitions, two of them to pay attention to. So just things, before we run through those conditions, just things I want to note is that the first one here, the one called an event form required in the event form definition, this one is marked as required, whereas the dynamically make an optional form required form is not required. We'll see that this one is a special case. It's the last one that we'll go through, but just for now, note that we have an event form definition where things are going to come out by default as required true, and one where it's going to come out of the box with required false. So note how we have no event form definitions. We haven't created them, haven't completed any yet. And if we look at our first condition where an event or a case event might be incomplete, it's that if there is an event form definition that is required and has no event form instances, then our case event is incomplete. So yeah, that's the case here. We have this event form definition that is required, but no instances of that form, and they're not complete. So we have an incomplete event. Now, if I add an instance of an event form required, this one, and I go back, so now we have at least an instance of it that is required, but the status is incomplete. If we back out, we can see the event is still incomplete. So again, we're still, now we're at this condition where there's at least one event form instance, but it's not complete. So the event's not complete. However, if I complete this form, this required form is marked complete, and we go back and the event is complete. This condition no longer applies because we have at least one form instance, but it is complete. And this one also doesn't apply because there is an event form instance. All right, so that covers the first two conditions. Now there's this third condition, and that's where an event form definition may not be required by default, but then it has an event form instance that is both incomplete and required. So in 3.12, it's possible that an event form instance may start off as not required, but then using some APIs, we mark that event form instance as required. So now we do actually have something that's required to accomplish before the case can be marked as complete. So I'm going to go ahead and demo that. We have this this other form which is required false by default. So when I go ahead and add it, well, what this form is going to do, as we know from prior demos, is that as soon as it opens itself, it marks itself as required. So we are going to essentially, by adding this form, we're going to reproduce this. And so when I add this and I go back, note this is now required, because in a previous video we demonstrated how we can mark something that is the default is required false, but we, in the on-open logic for this form, we marked it as such as required. And so now we're in the scenario where we are qualifying for this third condition where a case event might be incomplete. So if we back out and look at the status of that event, it is in fact incomplete. So to complete the event, we'll just make this required form we'll either make it not required or we'll make it complete. Let's just complete it and hit submit. And back out and we can see that the event is complete. That's all for this demo. Thanks for watching.